joining us now on the record to discuss the beauty of the liturgy in the Catholic Church, from the traditional Latin Mass to the Novus Ordo, and for his response to the so-called liturgy wars, is Bishop James Conley of the Diocese of Lincoln in Nebraska. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us for this conversation. First, when Pope Francis released the apostolic letter Traditionis Custodes in 2021, how did you personally discern how to implement it in your specific Diocese of Lincoln?
Well, I think I'm in kind of a unique diocese because we are the national headquarters for the Fraternity of St. Peter's Seminary in the North American district. So we have about 90 seminarians who are with the FSSP, and they are being trained and formed and ordained to go out and to serve in those parishes in North America that exclusively use the 1962 Missal and the liturgical books from the pre-Vatican Council Mass. And so I kind of inherited that from my predecessor, Bishop Breskowitz, and we've had always a very good relationship with the fraternity. We have a fraternity parish in my diocese, which is staffed by fraternity priests, and then we have the Carmelite monastery here, which exclusively uses the Old Mass. And so I have frequent opportunity to celebrate the Old Mass in all those different settings and contexts. Plus, we have several parishes that have a Sunday Mass according to the 62 Missal. So, and when Traditionis Custodes came out, in the first month or so, I granted, well, I could, a dispensation from place so that they could fall under the, before the dubium came out, that they would fall within the context of what Traditionis Custodes was calling for. So that's how sort of we dealt with the Traditionis Custodes.
And how did your personal formation when it comes to the liturgy inform that discernment for your diocese?
Well, I'm an adult convert to the Catholic faith. So I was received into the church when I was in college, my junior year in college. So I kind of came into the Catholic Church through kind of an intellectual I read my way into the church, as I like to say sometimes. And so I studied, the history of the Mass, and then when I discerned a vocation to the priesthood, and was being formed in seminary, I always had a great interest in the history of the Mass and the liturgy. And I've always been very close to the Benedictine monastery in France, Fontainebleau. And so I guess a lot of my friends entered that monastery. And so I've had a lot of exposure to the traditional Mass. But when I was ordained a priest, of course, ordained in the Novus Ordo, and as I've been a bishop and a priest, I was auxiliary bishop in Denver, and then I've been here now for almost 13 years. I primarily celebrate the Novus Ordo Mass, of course, but I enjoy having the opportunity to celebrate the Old Mass from time to time, quite frequently, actually.
Well, as you well know, Catholics have strong feelings about the TLM. It's difficult to speak on this topic without it becoming highly charged. Why is that?
I think it's still the aftermath of the Second Vatican Council, where it was such a change in the way we approach the liturgy that there still is this dynamic of pre and post. And I think Benedict did a lot to kind of try and, try to show the complementarity of the two forms of the Mass. So what he liked to talk about is the cross-pollination, that the Novus Ordo came out of the traditional Mass, and that we have to know our roots. And I think some think that the Mass before the Council was so different than the Mass after the Council, that anything that harkens back to the past is somehow wrong or invalid or whatever, however they want to put it. And I think that's where you get into the friction and tension, that's sort of pre and post. Whereas I like to think of it as it's all part of the same tradition. I mean, it has to be part of it. It goes back to Jesus Christ. And the Mass is formed and developed over the centuries.
Mm-hmm. You hit on my next question, Your Excellency, because liturgy reflects doctrine, but some Catholics equate changes to liturgy to changes to doctrine. Is that the case with Vatican II and the new rite?
Well, no, you're probably referring to lex orandi, lex credendi. We believe what we pray, and as we emerged, from apostolic times, the development of the liturgy kind of coexisted with the development of doctrine as well. And there has not been doctrinal change in the church. It's developed, as John Henry Cardinal Newman, now Doctor of the Church, teaches so beautifully. And the liturgy has formed alongside with the development of doctrine over the centuries. And I believe too that what we're experiencing now with the friction, I think eventually will mature that as well. And this back and forth, there's a great, as you probably know, there's a great attraction to all things traditional by young people, this new generation, and they come at it in a kind of a refreshing way. I think they're not so much caught up in the liturgical wars. They just recognize beauty and reverence, and they want that. Because we live in such a secularized world, they have a longing for the transcendence. And when they experience, for example, a Latin Mass or even an Eastern Rite Mass, and they see all the beauty of it, whether it be the bells and smells or the liturgical vestments or the reverence, they're attracted to that because their world, I think, of this new generation, Gen Z as it's called, is so it's so transient and it's changing all the time. They're looking for something that doesn't change and that's rooted in something that's larger than themselves.
Bishop Conley, some Catholics who love the Latin Mass have begun attending Mass at SSPX chapels. The Society of St. Pius X is a traditionalist group not in full communion with the Catholic Church, and it has a canonically irregular status. That being said, what is your message to Catholics who feel a draw to SSPX when the traditional Latin Mass is not readily available to them?
Well, that's, I think, where the Fraternity of St. Peter comes in, and that was precisely why John Paul II established the Fraternity of St. Peter and it was started, of course, with priests who were in SSPX, and they came and showed their fidelity to when the split took place in '88, when Archbishop Lefebvre consecrated those 4 bishops. Then a group of fraternity priests came to John Paul II, and they wanted to remain in union and communion with the Church in Rome, and they realized that this was a real split, a schism. And so that's why the Fraternity of St. Peter was founded. And Fraternity of St. Peter has spread throughout the world as precisely something that would be available to people in union with the Church in Rome and the present Pope, and as an alternative to having to go to, let's say, a Society of St. Pius X church.
In my final minute with you, Your Excellency, I did want to mention this, that you sit on the board of the Benedict XVI Institute. Tell us the latest about what you are doing to help cultivate greater reverence for the sacred liturgy right now.
Right. We just had a board meeting yesterday, so it's very timely. And we've just launched this new, what's called the Reverent Liturgy Project, through the Benedict XVI Institute, founded by Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone, the Archbishop of San Francisco, which is a very kind of practical initiative to help priests and lay faithful and musicians, especially in the area of sacred music, to further enhance and renew a reverence for everything liturgical, beginning from the altar out. And you can go to our website and see this project and learn about it, to develop and cultivate a greater reverence, greater more beautiful music, and just an overall appreciation of the beauty of the liturgy, both in the old form and the new form.
Bishop James Conley, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your voice with our viewers. We appreciate it.
Thank you.